Three, two, one. Steve Bennett, how you doing, man?
Hey, Brock, how you guys doing over there?
I'm
I'm
doing
doing
good, man.
fine.
It's a little chilly. It's a little
Oh,
chilly over here. Hurricane just got done and sucked all the heat out of the air.
oh man. And over here in the Great Pacific Northwest, we finally don't have clouding choke of smoke from all the crazy wildfires that were just going on and down in Oregon
Oh,
and we were surrounded by fire for quite a while, and it was pretty dark up here and choky and hazy and hell on the sinuses. But now finally we're getting nice autumn weather, and it's pretty decent up here now.
that's
So can't
fantastic
complain. Can't
news to hear,
complain.
man. I forgot that you're over in the Seattle area, right?
Yeah, we're not in Seattle proper. We're just right across the Puget Sound. We're over in the Kitsap area, so uh, we
Okay.
we get the
I'll
best of
pretend
both
like I know
worlds.
where that is.
So like when you look at the map of the United States and Canada, and we're that on that really tail end of Washington that just goes all the way up into the Pacific Ocean.
Uh,
So like when we look to the left in the morning, we could see out my window, we could see the out of my studio window, we can see the Olympic Mountains on the Pacific coast. And then if we went through our through the living room and looked out the other window, we could see the Cascades over there in the east, right there with where Seattle
oh,
and all that are. So
that,
yeah, so like if Mount Rainier ever
that is
explodes,
fantastic.
we'll get covered in ash, but
Ooh.
thankfully none of the mud flow will hit us.
No, no, no. Just run straight into it. You don't want to try and to survive after that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's going to be Walking Dead. You're going to be eating dog food cans. There's just no good. There's not going to be any actual food left.
Hey, the eating
Just
will be
run
real
straight into
good
the
here
hellfire.
with all the vegetarians that are around here. Yum. Well
They're
fed food source.
they're not going to be vegetarians for much longer.
I guess they would be
All right.
zombitarians
So
at that point.
for anybody that doesn't know, yeah, no, there's not going to be anybody like that. So for anybody who doesn't know, tell everybody here just a little bit about yourself.
Well, hey, y'all out there. I'm Steve Bennett. Worked in Japanese cartoons and animation for ever since the 1980s, so it's been close to 30 years. I worked with Studio Iron Cat for a while too, when in the early 2000s, or was it? Yeah, early 2000s up till 2005 or so. And we published a bunch of Japanese manga, translated into English, and brought it out. And then, of course, since I worked in the anime industry as an animator, I've been attending. I've been fortunate enough to be a guest at a lot of these anime conventions since Katsucon number one, which was held in 1994 in Virginia. And I've probably hit every single con at one point or another. There used to be an old saying going around: "It ain't a con unless you have Steve Bennett there." So, you know, well,
No.
hopefully I lived up to the good hype there. But yeah, so I've been doing this for a long time, and I was very fortunate to be at the right place at the right time, and got to do these wonderful Japanese cartoons with people in Japan, and then eventually got to parlay that into doing cartoons in the industry and the convention scene here in the United States once I moved back here in the U.S. And yeah, so that am who I am. Be most of you out there probably do know me already, and for those of you that don't, howdy, konnichiwa, ohayo gozaimasu, guten tag, nice to meet you guys.
Oh man. So what really is so you were more of a 2D animator, correct? You never really got into more of the 3D stuff and the really kind of the more rounded types of animation that happens nowadays, correct?
But yeah, I was definitely classically trained, with 2D, all pencil and paper work, because at that time, especially in the early '80s, it was just all strictly, done by hand. The computer animation was just starting to come out. I was in Japan the year that Go-Go 13, one of the first anime films or animated films in general that ever used the new technology called computer animation at the time, was Go-Go 13. And I do remember going to go see Go-Go 13's premiere in downtown Tokyo with my teacher. And for you guys, the benefit of this audience here, everything is going to be told in English. But he spoke Japanese, and my Japanese was even more worse than my English is. Anyways, with my sensei, I remember asking him, as we were watching this first animated sequences, the opening sequence to Go-Go 13, the assassin animation movie. That was computer animated, and then there were some certain scenes inside the movie or within the movie that were also computer animated. Now, of course, if you see it now, to the modern eye, of course, it looks very extremely dated because it was, it was brand new technology. It was like the cavemen getting to see fire for the first time. And so I remember being very impressed with the attack helicopter scenes, the very James Bond-esque opening animation sequence that used this, this new technology called computer animation. And I remember turning to my teacher and asking him, what do you think of this brand new stuff? And he just gave it the shrug and a chortle and said, it's a fad, it'll pass. Now, many, many years later, once I moved back to the States and, I was over here in the US, I got a chance to go back to Japan in the 1990s, and I got to see my sensei for the first time since I had left. And I remember, and of course now by the mid 1990s, computer animation is starting to take over. It's everywhere. And I remember standing in Shinjuku, looking up at one of those giant computerized screens showing some big giant film and computer animation up there, and me and my teacher looking at it, and I sat there and asked him, so what do you think about computer animation now? To which he just promptly turned around and told me to shut up. Because he had to of course scramble, because he was still of course active in the industry, Mr. Noboru, Furusei Noboru. And he has all the work pretty much all the work that they were doing in the 1990s. It went from 2D animation to completely being everything 3D. At that time, in 1994, I was approached by Disney to come down and work for them. And I was more, I had just gotten married. My wife bought a house and everything in Virginia. And so that would be one hell of a commitment, if we pulled up stakes and moved down there. And what kind of stopped me from doing it, other than we were just brand new, married, and just bought a house and everything, is the mere fact that they said, oh, and by the way, when you come down, we need you to do computer graphic animation, because they had just announced that they were shutting down their 2D animation studios. And it's like, nah, that ain't happening, Which I'm very glad we didn't take the opportunity, because again, I would have been screwed, So when I was doing the animation, it was all about the 2D. And even now to this day, I still prefer doing everything by hand. Now, I will do stuff with the computer, commission work, artwork, or any project work that needs being done on the computer. So I do that. But yeah, usually when I'm doing my own or completely just doing a project my way, it always starts out with good old fashioned paper and pen. Oh, hey, by the way, I'm sorry. Do I have my camera on? You could see me, right? Okay. All right. So yeah.
Yes. No, I'm good, dude.
Oh, good. I wasn't sure. See, I still don't know the computers, boys and girls, after all this time. I still have to ask for confirmation. Is this thing working? Click or confirmed it. Hey, my wife would have had a funny story to tell you. Today I had to figure out how to set up the iCloud, and boy, was I cussing a storm.
Ooh. Yeah. iCloud. I'm not in a cult, so I prefer Samsung.
Well, you know, I was a Mac man in the very beginning, and still to a point, I am a Mac man. But yeah, me too. Samsung.
Yeah.
If
All
Samsung
right.
is now, that would be great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you kind of have to be Mac, like, because they really, not only did they make their devices more of a cult following, but like any self-respecting artist is going to own some kind of like Apple product for their computer or their drawing pad. Like,
Well,
if you see an artist with a like a Samsung Note pad for like their art, you're gonna just like, you poor thing. I'm
well,
so
it was
sorry
the
for
other,
the struggles you're
it
going
was kind
through.
of, it was reversed, so to speak. I mean, for me, like I never set out to be a Mac man or an iPad man or even or what is that, a PC guy. But I know that we all get put into a niche.
Hmm.
Me, I simply started out because when Studio Iron Cat became a thing in the 1990s, um, uh, before that, I didn't bother with any computers. I didn't have one at home. I probably was one of the last generation kids that graduated high school that didn't have a computer background or anything. Only the
Hmm.
super rich, uh, yeah, boys and girls, believe it or not, back in those days, computers cost like something close to like, what was it, $2,000-3,000 a unit, and usually
I don't even want to imagine.
the 18-year-old kid that had a computer in our day, in my day, he was either well off or he was a super nerd that really was into that binary green screen, black screen. Computers were not cheap like they are now, and they certainly weren't handheld little easy devices to use. So it was through a good friend of mine, Robert Burns, who was a college. I met him in college, and he was the tech man that always had those early version of the Amigas and all those early Apple products, and then when PC came out, had those as well. And it was because of him that before I went to Japan in the 1980s, or no, excuse me, in the 1980s, that none of that was around just yet. It was just starting out. But in the 1990s, when Studio Iron Cat was just about to form up, in 1990, what was 94, 95, maybe 96, 97, Studio Iron Cat formed up. And by that point, thanks to guys like my friend Bob Burns, they brought me up to snuff with all this newfangled technology, especially since the art world and the
Mhm.
printing world at that time was being totally taken over by the computer. Even the word processor was on its way out. The typewriter was no longer in use, and those computers went from just being research tools, and the internet, the early internet, as just as for research only. It eventually started to become the go-to world of where you had to know your way around a computer to get artwork laid out, get work done, and so, kicking and screaming like a caveman being dragged into the 21st century. That's how I learned. When I first started with my business partner back in the day, and he said, "Oh, you'll be doing all your layouts and cartoon illustration on the computer." I sat there and told him bold-facedly, "I don't know shit about computers." I mean, I knew some, but not enough to just like, hey, I could just dive right in. So to illustrate the point, I was sitting there at the office, with my computer mouse doing my best Scotty impression, hello, computer, computer, open the files, computer. To which my partner then realized, oh my God, Steve wasn't kidding. But I could tell you that within a month, I knew what I was doing after that. So, and at that time, Mac was the shit bomb where it came to graphics. It was solid, it was strong, it didn't play around, and just about every single person that ever worked in graphics at that time was all about the Mac, because back then the PC was still, hey, just for chit chat, just for researching things, but not really creating anything. Plus, the Mac, not only was it tough, it was built like a tank. So viruses, glitches and problems, it cost you an arm and a leg, but boy, was it damn well worth it. So the only time I started to have to use actually some other computers, even to do graphic work, was when I was in the not 19, but after Studio Iron Cat had to close its doors and we moved on with life. I was still involved with going to anime cons and such, but in 2008, my wife, bless her soul, she got the opportunity of a lifetime to follow her career working with the Department of Defense, and it was a job opportunity to go overseas to Japan. So, hey, dear, do you mind if we move to Japan? Hell no, whatever makes you happy, dear. Let's go. So we moved to Japan in 2008. And what I wound up doing there, just to keep busy and whatnot, because originally I wanted to be a fisherman and work off base and all that. I didn't want to have anything to do with the military at the time. I've been a military brat all my life, so it was like I don't exactly want to go back into living on a base kind of lifestyle. If we're going to be in Japan, we're going to live off base, and I'm going to work on a Japanese fishing boat and, and have my fun in the sun. Doing that until, of course, we realized that as members of the Department of Defense, you cannot take away jobs from the local people. So, in other words, if you're associated with the base, having off base employment was a big no-no. So, being the honest people that we are, I wound up working, of course, for the military instead. And so I became a graphics artist for the Marine Corps while we were over there at MCAS Iwakuni. And of course, the Marine Corps, bless their souls, not a Mac in sight. I had to become a PC person. So was trying to what is that called? Like when you're trying to relearn an old technology. So everything that I knew with the Mac, I had to almost unlearn.
Pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, it was a learning experience, and it was quite the pain in the ass. But eventually, I wound up learning how to use the PC too. So Mac was really, and still is to this day, just tough as hell. In fact, here just a quick endorsement for Mac, real quick. In 20 some odd years of having worked on Macs, the only time I ever had a serious problem with Mac happened about 2 years ago in 2017. Well, that was even more than 2 years ago now. In 2017, this is a true story. Around what was it? 2017. It was November of 2017. No, was it early of 2017? Maybe around January or so. All my stuff in one day, totally non-related, but yet on the same day, my iMac died. I got the ring of death on my iMac on the desktop.
Oh, no.
And my laptop.
I didn't know it did that.
MacBook Pro. Yeah, it really did. I thought it was a legend. I've heard of it and never believed it until I actually.
I've only heard it for Xbox.
It actually happened to me the first time ever in 24 years or so of ever, using Macs and whatnot. And the Mac had a white ring of death. It wouldn't fire up. It had the ring of death. And then weirdly enough, because I was turning right around and my Samsung died on the exact same day, totally unrelated.
Oh, no.
And the iMac or the MacBook Pro laptop just totally bit the dust too. But I was able to resurrect it from the dead thanks to the Apple Store crew, and I used out of principle just that laptop plugged into the wall for over a year until early 2018, when finally it totally died, because I had no concept that if you keep a dead laptop alive by using the power plug, the battery that's still in there, it swole up so bad that when people saw the pictures of my computer, because I said, hey, what's wrong? All of a sudden this thing's not working anymore. And I was able to get it out. Well, at that point, I had a new phone, the Samsung, and I had taken a picture of the laptop, and I had so many people going, "Get out of the room!" They said it was, yes, you're
Right.
lucky to
You could have,
blow
that
up
thing
on it.
literally could have exploded any minute.
It was so fat and bent that you couldn't even close the top. And no fooling, after it was unplugged and all that, maybe about a week later or so, it did actually shrink back where you could close it. But of course, by that point, it was dead. So, um, yeah, hopefully I'm not digressing here and going off on a crazy tangent, but that was the only time in all those many years that I ever had Mac products go bad on me. Other than that, I've never been hacked. I've never been none of that. None of that. None of that. None of those common problems that you PC people experience. So, like Winchester the Third from MASH, we Winchesters prefer the Mac.
Well, even back then, like you had to learn everything by like books and by experience. Nowadays, like I can just go to a YouTube channel. Like I learned editing on this Mac on iMovie for each podcast on each situation. There's a YouTube video, or there's a channel that he covers or she covers every single issue.
Yeah, in fact, that's how I started figuring out a bunch of things finally, too, going, oh, that's right, just Google. I used to hate it if somebody said, just Google it. It's like, dude, if I wanted to fucking Google it, I would have already done that myself. I want an answer here. But now I really do kind of understand that just Google it, because you just go, oh, hey, oh, there we go. Oh, hey, there we go. So, yeah, to a point, I'm still
because it's gotten so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's gotten so good nowadays where you don't even have to like type it. You can just say it, and then it says it back. You don't even have to read it. It's gotten so easy.
I could do my computer, and it would work.
Yeah, right. You were born in the wrong time.
Oh my God, dude. I have to say, bless my parents' souls for getting together and then bringing me onto this planet Earth. You know how folks will say, oh, I sometimes I wish I was born 20 years ago or 30 years ago, or I really should have been born in the 1800s or something. And I sit and say, I was born at the right time. Because
right, exactly.
Any of us born, post 1966 and up, I mean, come on, guys, man. We live longer, we eat better, we have internet, all the stuff that when I was a kid, Jesus, man, half the crap that you guys got now was what we dreamed of having. Oh, that would be awesome if I had Dick Tracy. It would be awesome if I had the Dick Tracy two-way wristwatch where I could see people and talk to people on the wristwatch. Now you can do it on your phone. Now you can do it on an Apple wristwatch, I remember when
it's got like a red light detector that can like measure your O2 sat. Like the new iWatch 6, it can like it. I'm like, what? This is witchcraft. This is like the future they warned us about. I mean, just imagine, like they're talking about, like John Hopkins is partnering with them. It's like we're going to gather the medical data on hundreds of millions of people day-to-day lives. Like if you go to the hospital for the same equipment, it'd be like $2,000 a day and equipment rental, and then you got to process it.
And meanwhile, now, like you said, like they could put everything about you on a chip and just like in Futurama, you got your employment chip, click, you got your. What is it? Science fiction always became science fact. You might be a little younger than me, but if you remember, maybe like hearing, like if your father told you the moment the handheld flip cell phones came out, every single one of us that was young / old enough to do it, we're like, we got those flip phones, we jerked it like this, and Enterprise come in.
Oh yeah,
come in, because now we finally had fucking Captain Kirk's, the not the tricorder, the communicator. In fact, a lot of my friends, they put their ringtones as the communicator sound effect. So whenever their wife was calling them or something, that was like Enterprise. Oh yeah.
It's almost too easy not to
Yeah,
do that.
absolutely, absolutely. And then and then
Like
when those
it's
folks
almost necessary.
like now, shoot, dude, you go around and film everything, take pictures of everything. Meanwhile, back in the day, we were just happy if we had a Kodak. If you had a Kodak Instamatic camera and you had only 29 shots and you had to wait 2 weeks for it to get developed, and usually half the shots were blurry and didn't even take. Now you can take a million shots on your cell phone, still have every single shitty picture on there without deleting it because, you know, because you can,
Yeah,
So yeah, I tell
yeah.
people straight
Or
up,
you can like
I was born at the right time at the right place, you know, young enough to enjoy
now
all
you
these
can like
things firsthand.
rotate in place while they're taking a picture of you
Mm-hmm.
and take 100,000 shots of the same
Mm-hmm.
thing, and they'll find the exact same frame where boom, it just matches perfectly.
Yeah, but I
Like
was also still born at the right time.
there's no like yeah yeah
Yeah, think of it this way
definitely.
too, because
So as far as
go ahead.
oh go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying too
Yeah, I don't know what this is. I think we have like a delay on this, but that's fine.
yeah,
We'll
I
just
think
I'll
so.
take that into account.
Not a problem. Not a problem. I also say that I was born at the right time in the right place because all the young dumb things that I did as a youth, there's no photographic evidence, which means
No,
because
I mean there's yeah like there's
meanwhile
there's
now
like a
everything's
hundred
recorded,
YouTubers that I know. Like
photographed.
every other day, there's like what drama reports like this just in famous YouTuber insert like Instagram influencer. It's like someone went through 10 years of their tweets and found where like as like a drunk person they like accidentally or intentionally like said the N word with a hard R and it's like and your career's done. It's like it's done.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many YouTubers have like fallen into that trap.
Well, yeah. Well, if
It's
everything, technology was a blessing and it can also be a curse because now what is that? Everything you footnote and put online is there forever and ever. There's no
there.
plausible deniability or hey,
No.
let bygones be bygones. Did we all do dumb things? Yeah, you bet we did. But thankfully, any of the really crazy dumb things I would have done is way before all this nonsense.
Imagine the 70s with like cell phones.
Oh my God.
Like that's almost an unconscionable. That's like almost an like I don't even want to imagine that. Like there's no way. Like there's
1940s and
no way.
they have Twitter. Adolf Hitler. I think I'm going to invade Poland today. What do you think about that? Oh, maybe a bad idea.
Oh no.
Or maybe.
Exactly. And like the US retweets it's like remember World War One? We'll fucking do it again. It's like just
Yeah, or hey, maybe we learned our lessons after World War One, and we should never ever do what we did again. World
never
War Two
do
resulted because
anything
of our
ever.
mistake. Well,
Exactly.
it kind of
But
brings me to a little something that I am willing to discuss because it's interesting that you bring that up because with this day and age, and with most of the people that are living now having been born post the Cold War years, post the Soviet era of Russia and communist China basically being this what do you call more because the communist China I knew was Mao Zedong, 20 million people dead and with an iron fist and all of
yeah.
that. And most of the kids now, it's like, oh, China was awesome, dude. I went to Peking and had a blast, and that's cool. Don't get me wrong, that's great. But
No.
a lot of us are still alive. It wasn't so great when it wasn't so cool, and it's amazing that even with all the advance in technology and stuff, seems like a lot of people have not learned lessons from the past, and and are bound to repeat it again, because especially if you're jumping around saying China's awesome or something, it's like, but you weren't alive to remember when China was not so awesome.
Yeah, like Tiananmen Square was like there was a point in time where they were really trying to take that one picture down of Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
And I think that the 20 million dead, I remember reading that in a book. I think it was Homo Deus. Mm-hmm. It was essentially where where the dictator, or whatever you want to call him, where he wanted the rice production elevated, so everybody down from like the local mayor all the way up, they just kept adding zeros to the end of the total tally. So they're like, look at all this great stuff we've got going, and then they sold what they thought was excess, and then they just couldn't import anything, so everybody just died.
And then they wound
like
up
20 million people
is like the Great Starvation, yeah. And then but it's amazing because
right now we've got 225,000 dead from COVID, and that is like an unimaginable death count. But imagine 10, 20 million. Like that's like states, but that's like whole states.
Also a scary thought too is like the common flu before COVID even hit killed about 10,000 Americans, and nobody batted an eye.
Nobody knew that shit either.
And then you had
that.
You had it's like, wow, but now 10,000 are dead of COVID, and it's like, oh my God, but understandably so, but still it's like, what about all the other times, idiots? 20,000 people dead from this, 20,000 dead from that.
Actually a nurse. Yeah, so my mom is a nurse, and I remember talking to her about this, and like she was in the same camp. She's just like, oh, it's just probably going to be another flu. I'm like, well, Mom, I mean, I'm not a medical professional by any stretch of the imagination, but I really think we're not taking into consideration this like dormant period of 2 weeks very seriously, because if you get the flu, you've got the flu. You got the flu. You're down at it, especially men. Like men get any kind of cold or flu, it's like we're on the verge of death. Females might be able to get up and go to work. But with this 2 week thing, I really thought that was really what's going to make its mark, was that 2 week spreader period.
We're like waxed out. Yeah, absolutely. And to be very frank, since I still remember what Chinese Communist Party is like, well, I never trusted anything that the Chinese government has it under control. The Chinese government is saying it's gone or it's taken care of. It's like, all right, with the Chinese government, just like with the American government, you always have to remember, whatever they say, always remember the opposite is true. It's under control.
Exactly.
No, it's not. Oh, the numbers are very low. No, it's not. We've got it contained. No, they don't. It will not spread anywhere else.
Remember when they're like, we're going to be open completely by Easter? Remember that? They're like, oh, don't worry. We're going to be open by Easter. You'll be able to go to Sunday morning church. I'm like, oh, I don't. It's like, if you really think so, but...
Well, it would have been nice if that was really true, but, obviously it wasn't. And now 38 weeks later, we're still, buttoned up or zipped up, or at least most of us are.
We're still getting new record numbers. I think like last week was 83,000 new cases reportedly.
Because I think most of those people now are just totally tired, and they're probably just going herd mentality. Some of us got to live, and some of us have got to die. And oh well, too bad, so sad.
Yeah, now, I don't think they really quantify what that means. Like I said at the very beginning of this to a couple of friends when everybody was like panicking about the mask. I was like, you go to Japan, you go to Vietnam, you go to China, anywhere where there's a giant crowd of people, they instinctually have on these masks. But because they've had the original SARS pandemic back in 2008, and they heard the word SARS, and they're like, not this shit again. I'm not. But America's never really. Yeah, go ahead.
No, you're right. I mean, America, the last time America had a pandemic, it was not within living memory. It was in 1919 with the
Spanish
famous
flu.
with the
Yeah.
infamous Spanish flu influenza there, and even then, see, here's the thing that people should take into consideration. Like, well, how come the Japanese, how come the Koreans, how come they could do this and that? It's like, well, they can because we're one group of people. We weren't descended from
Yeah.
hundreds of different groups of people that had their minds made up. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love America and I respect America, but I also know that America is made of many cultures. Some cultures are tighter about
Yeah.
doing things for the greater good of a group, and some cultures are more like the Japanese, all for the greater common good. One man will
Yeah.
sacrifice his
Yeah.
life
Those
for one. Meanwhile, of course, most American cultures and backgrounds come from groups where it's like all for one and one for, or the other way around. Me first, all
yeah.
women and children
Yeah.
last, or
Me first.
something like that. So so yes, a Japanese or a Korean or some other Europeans, they wouldn't think twice about not masking up. Masks, if whether folks believe that they work or don't, it was it was in Japan. I was always told this: doesn't matter whether it works or not. You're showing respect to your fellow Japanese brothers and sisters, that you are willing to play. I mean, not play, but you're willing to follow the society rule, and the society rule is mask the fuck up. And if you're sick, you don't go out and infect people. You stay at home, and if you are wearing your mask, you're wearing it as a polite sign of please avoid me. I might be contagious with something.
Mhm.
Or so it's more of a courtesy,
Oh, because
as
they'll
well
still go
as
to school.
the courtesy. And like with the Americans, like I remember Americans being in Japan, and they would see the Japanese walking around with the cold mask on, going, "What are they, a bunch of doctors? What are they getting ready to operate?" And I would have to sit there and explain to them, that's really just a
Right.
common courtesy of, I have a cold, please avoid me. And I'm trying to do what I can to stop spreading contagion. Meanwhile, my American buddy is sitting there hawking his nose into his arm, or into his hand, and then wanting to shake my hand after he had just hawked into his hand. Uh,
Yeah.
you can't, but it's not fair to say that all
It's like,
Americans
look
are
how
that.
green it is.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's just how we're, the
Ah,
different.
I'll say it. I'll say it. It's a.
But yeah, a
I'll say
thousand
it. It's a.
Americans
It's
will.
a broad majority.
Like when this whole thing happened and we were told to mask up, every single American that I knew that was stationed in Japan and knew how the Japanese are and how Asian people can be, we already had masks ready to go. We already were wearing our masks, and we already knew, you just put it on and you just do what's right to for yourself, for one. I mean, always your survival and health, and at the same time, have some common courtesy and respect for other people. Now, with the people just kind of getting stir crazy because they've been
Yeah.
told,
But
yeah, now it's kind of the other way around for a lot of folks, I bet, and yeah. Anyways, and of course,
yeah.
political groups across the board, whether one side or the other, and they're definitely using this to their advantage. Keep the rich getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer, and
I mean, who knew a mask could be politicized?
oh
Who expected the mask to be a political like? I was like, I mean, I honestly never saw that coming. Like, I was genuinely surprised.
when I
I
looked
don't
it up,
know if that was
it
just
was
like
like, oh my God.
always going to happen, or if that was
Yeah.
just 2020.
Well, I mean, I think, whether this was 2020 or even if this was 2018 or 2030, one way or another, politicization of everything always happens. The one side will say we're right, the other side will say
Yeah,
we're right, and it's uh, since time immemorial. Our left and our right has been doing this dance since the founding days of the American nation. And um, will, will it stop? Probably not, because hey, you know, look at all the people that get into politics and say they're doing it for all the right reasons, and then they wind up staying in for all the wrong reasons. So yeah, interesting stuff. Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Wow.
COVID. Well,
It is.
I mean,
It is. So to get back on
yeah.
to why I even brought
Oh
you
yeah, yeah.
here in the first place, the animation, because that's why I really wanted to talk to you.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, sure.
last Christmas, I believe, I can't remember the exact name, but I remember you and Philo talking about it on Facebook. Was the 2D Christmas movie where it was like the mailman and the guy that would become Santa Claus. And
Uh,
I remember a lot of people really like beholden by this. It's like they're like 2D animation is back. It's
that
like this is what we've
yes,
been missing. It's like finally
yes,
somebody did it.
yes. For the life of me, I just forgot what that
And it
film.
was a very good movie. It was
Yeah.
so good.
Well, a lot of
It's
at the
something
time,
Claus. It's
it
always
was
something Claus.
Disney. In fact, before COVID really kind of hit in and all that, Disney was talking about reopening their 2D animation studios again. Because the computer stuff, bless its soul, but it's become so
Yeah.
common and so overused and so not exciting. It seems like every movie ever since has been trying to top it, top the next movie with their quote CGI extravaganzas, that now the CGI is just looking ridiculously fake
Yeah.
and super terrible. I mean, like case in point, the very first Lord of the Rings, boy, it was crazy awesome to see, massive battles and things that just could not be done with truly getting 100,000 people in a uniform, storming castles like they used to do in the old days. But then, over time, as cool as it was,
Mm-hmm.
20 years or 10, whenever yeah, those movies, I guess they're almost 20 years old now too. The Lord of the Rings, right? After that first Lord of the Rings came out, and then
Yeah. Yeah.
by the time that damn what was it, the Hobbits came out, it was like, oh my God, this is so. When I saw Legolas doing that doo 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 Mario Brothers impression, hopping along those flying bricks or whatever, we just knew it right there that it was like, man, computer animation has now officially entered into the suck realm, where it's just now so stupidly cartoonish and boring. So that when all of a sudden movies like Princess and the Frog, like when Princess and the Frog, that Disney animated movie, it's set in Louisiana. That was amazing. That all the effects that you saw in that you could swear up and
Yes,
down
I remember that.
was computer animation, was nope. They went totally old school with that, with 2D hand animation, and it looked so much better than all the computer crap that's been coming out. In Japan, when I
It
was there in the
did
in
look.
the
It did look really good.
I got so annoyed with all the computer anime that was available that I just had zero interest in watching anything quote post 2000 that was coming out in 2008 and on in Japan. Um, Case in point, and no offense to anybody that likes the stuff, but you'll get what I'm talking about here in a minute. But I couldn't for the life of me tell Love Live, Love Idol, Love or whatever, so I could not tell them apart because they were all computer animated and they all looked cookie cutter the same. Meanwhile, the only way I actually watched any anime while
Yeah.
I was over there was when the Animax channel came on. The next thing you know, it was like they were showing good old 1970s, 80s, 90s hand drawn anime. And just like this is what I call cartoons, man. And I watched more old stuff in while I was in Japan from 2008 to 2015 than any of the new stuff. Yeah, it's just. I mean, now I'll take with a few
Ooh.
exceptions. There was some newish stuff that I watched that was all right, but chances were whatever I was watching that was new only to me, and it was probably already old to you guys. So like when in Japan I finally saw the anime called K-On! And somebody told me, oh, that's old, and it's like, well, it's new to me. And it was actually
Oh
pretty decent.
yeah,
And I think the
yeah.
computer
That's
animation in that,
old.
yeah, computer animation in K-On! Was extremely limited. It wasn't the entire episode. But meanwhile, any of those Love Hina, Love Lives, or whatever, Love something something, Love Idols or Sing Idols, or it was all computer animated. It looked all cookie
Mhm.
cutter, same cookie cutter the same. Uh, oh, I did watch some One Piece,
Well, it was so easy to do that because they already had the model saved over from the last show that they did.
and all they had to do is just switch out costumes, and then it's the same thing over and over and over.
Hair color, hairstyles. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yep, you always got to have the brooding long-haired,
That's
purple-haired
really all they
girl.
had to do.
You always have to have the airheaded little cute blonde
Oh
girl,
my
and
god.
the very very brooding yet serious brunette girl. Yeah. And on and on and on and on. So I couldn't tell them apart. So I don't know.
Is it sad that every characteristic you call out that I'm like, oh yeah, no, that character. It's like, oh yeah, no, she fits that bill pretty good.
Well, they
It's
all
like
became trope.
they really do make sure that that personality type matches that hair color.
Yeah. What is it? What is that word? Tropism. You know, and it's so true.
Trope, yeah.
Oh yeah. It's like, well, you can't have an anime without at least
Like
12
if she's
girls.
blonde, she's a tsundere.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
Right.
uh,
And that one dude that just will not make a move at all.
uh, over and over and over and over and over. That's what I liked about anime like Useatsu or Maison Ikoku. Folks could say, well, those were tropes too. That was the guy surrounded by a harem and he wants those at least are funny. The guy is trying to go for it, but the guy loses out. Meanwhile, the current trope is dude is surrounded by 100 girls wanting him and he can't function. Ugh.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely.
And then there's like, I mean, there has been a couple of anime where it's been like maybe not 100 girls, but it's been like the main 6 or whatever, and
Yeah.
like he tries to, and then he ain't a bitch. He goes for it, and they're like, I'm kidding. Got up like last minute they like slap him away, and then like 10 seconds later they're like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, and I'm like. And that's how they keep from because once someone's picked and someone's choose, it's like it's not fun anymore.
Yeah. Then it's like, oh man, kill it now, kill it with fire. Oh man. See, you young guys, if you really want to see some fun stuff, watch all the animes from 1960, 70, 80, and all the way up to mid 2000s. That was the bomb stuff, man. A lot of it was fun. A lot of it was original. A lot of it was not troped up like crazy, you know. And and, and they could be risque or not risque. They could be damn funny or at least slapstick funny. But all this emo, wham, I'm so sad. Oh, death is woe is me. And it's like, it's everywhere in all of it. It's so depressing.
It is.
I mean,
well, that's because they have those animators that they pay $800 a month, and they work them to death for 3 years. So they're like putting that emotion onto the characters they draw.
I think so.
They pretty much made the animation industry into interchangeable slave labor. Like it's like you really were born at the right time because being an animation artist right now, it's got to be bad.
Yeah, and well, even back then, I mean, it wasn't. I mean, if you were even a Hayao Miyazaki, got paid only but so much until he became Miyazaki. Pay. I mean, if you thought you were going to get into anime and get rich and famous, think twice. And I think yeah. Well, this is what I've always told people at the anime cons is if you really want to make this your bread and butter, you might want to think twice about it because, do you want anime and manga or comics and animation to be your passion that you enjoy, or do you really want it to be, your bread and butter? If it's going to be your bread and butter, I can tell you right now, the pride and joy and enjoyment 9 times out of 10 it's going to head out the window. Oh, that'll never happen to me. It's like, please, please, you're fooling yourself.
That's what the last guy told me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, I mean, it's just a hard fact and a hard reality. I mean, some kids, some have realistic, expectations, but let's be honest, most have a very unrealistic expectation. They think, oh, because I love anime and manga, I could get into it and I'm going to go to Japan and I'm going to do this and that. And you can, I mean, it's possible, but just be prepared, man, be realistic. There's not an animator or professional that I know that has not had, I mean, not had, but they had the exact same experiences like me. The experiences being, we had our real jobs too. Sometimes we didn't work in the studio all the time. We did other things that actually paid the bills. Other side projects or working, working in the animation studio at night and during the day working at McDonald's, just to, again, to make sure the bills were paid, And for every Miyazaki, there's 1,000 non-Miyazakis, involved in this industry. For every, look at the poor guy that you think, he's sitting pretty and rich and famous and he probably, but the guy that created One Piece was getting worked to death. Right? Remember that a couple of years ago?
Oh my God, that poor man.
Yeah, and it's like, well, wait a minute. You don't take a god and treat him like a working horse. And it's like, well, what do you think the creators are over there? Most of them are working horses. And if you can't do the work, you burn out, or you get kicked to the curb. Dying of stress and heart attack and all that, it was very common, to animators and cartoonists over there. Some get lucky and get to grow old, but most don't.
That still happens over there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then now with the internet, especially,
I don't know what it's called because it has an actual. It has like an actual name over in Japan. I don't know what it is because again I don't speak Japanese. But like they'll say like upper middle management. Like there's like ever so many a year found dead at their desk, but like just like they worked themselves to a heart attack.
Salaryman's
and that's just
salaryman's death. Yeah. That's very true. When I was working in the animation
I remember like 2016, there was like this really, I remember back in 2016, there was like this really, like, I remember them showing her picture, this really beautiful, really attractive Japanese girl that was an office worker, and she, just straight out of college, second year into her job at, by tradition, it's like you go to college, you get your degree, you find a job, and then you work there until you get upper middle management, and then you retire once you retire. But for whatever reason, they worked her so hard that she just dove off the building, and the Japanese government was like, this shit's got to stop. Y'all have been doing this for years.
And it still happens. Aokigahara Forest is famous for people ending their lives there because expectations are high, or
oh my God, yeah.
And yes, Americans could say, oh, well, that's society doing it to them and all. And it's like, it just is how it is, Americans kill themselves too. We just kill ourselves over other reasons that as much as we may find that Japanese reasons are very odd or strange or even foolish, a lot of the reasons Americans kill themselves over here, the rest of the world's looking at that too, going, That was pretty dumb. That was pretty crazy. Why didn't he just quit and get another job? Why didn't they just leave
Yeah.
that position? If they hated it so much,
Yeah.
and I know it sounds so simple to say, oh, just switch
Yeah.
jobs or just switch careers, but you get so
It's not that
pumped
simple.
up. Oh yeah, it's not. It certainly is not. But yeah, yeah, yeah. But in Japan, they take things just very seriously. An American can fall flat on his face and maybe not necessarily care about it. A Japanese falls flat on his face. He feels like he's disgraced his entire family. He has disgraced his entire
Done.
ancestry. And
Done though.
yeah, yeah. Well, in some ways, it's like, well, like folks would say to me, like, well, why is
Like Robert Downey Jr.
Say again? Like Robert who?
I was saying like even like Robbie Downey Jr. Like Iron Man, like he was in jail
Yeah,
and like a coke fiend or what I can't like maybe coke, maybe crack.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
Iron Man. It's like redemption story. It's like I don't think like, and again I know nothing about Japanese culture, but I would if I was a betting man I'd wager that doesn't really work out like that.
Very rarely,
Like
because
you wouldn't be able to come back from like drug charges.
yeah, they take a lot of things very seriously over there that most Western nations would probably laugh at or go, "Oh my God, that's so serious there," or who. One of the reasons why crime is
Yeah.
low there is because they just simply take even the petty act of theft or whatnot as just a very serious thing. Maybe in many ways that would be awesome if folks in America could be more like that, but take super. But then of course that'll get turned around on, well, it's society's fault, or the government didn't do enough for this or that
Hmm.
or blah blah blah, and it's like, well, actually, that's not entirely true. You can have a lot of people growing up in bad situations, but if they have a good mother, father, or good two fathers, good two mothers, or good parents, or that, or a family that loves them and self that builds up their self-respect, and they have respect for themselves. Ultimately, most people will have respect for others, and maybe not be led into
Yeah.
into situations where, like, well, like I carry it as a badge of honor that I've been in prison for 13 times, whereas in Japan, being in prison once is already bad enough,
Yeah.
so yes, and it can
Yeah.
be, considered cultural differences, or, one culture values honesty and hard work, and maybe some other cultures don't value it as much or something, who knows. Um, but yeah, that's why it works that way. Folks will say, well, how come in Japan, a murder and all that is so low? Again, because they've got a lot of honor and integrity riding on things. Yes, we used to have samurais that went and lopped heads off whenever they were pissed off, but that was 100 years ago, and ever since then, going around lopping
For the
people's
honor.
heads off is a huge no-no. Just because the cop in
Yeah.
Japan walks around without a gun doesn't mean he knows how to kick your ass into submission. You don't get to go up to a cop and beat him up, and
Hmm.
he'll body slam your shit. Oh, and the other thing that they do in Japan that America doesn't know
Hmm.
much about is you can be held in Japanese jail without charges. So,
Oh
like,
yeah. No.
if they deem that you're doing something wrong, you can't be screaming my civil rights, my human rights, blah blah blah. You can't arrest me without a warrant. You can't take me into custody because under mere suspicion. It's like, the hell they can't. So you know they will take your ass in if you look at them wrong. You know, or yeah, let's just say straight out, maybe the cop doesn't like foreigners in general. He can take you in. End of story. you know,
Ooh.
you know. So you don't
Yeah, and
have
that's a
a lot of
really
things.
like a lot of people like I'll say that to them, and they'll be like really surprised. Like It's like they're like normally white people kind of get a pass in Japan just because like Asians, a lot of Asians like the lighter the skin, it's like it's more of akin to royalty, and then like a darker complexion, it's like you're more of a peasant because you worked out in the field all day. So like some foreigners it may be like that, but a lot like
Well,
I was
yes.
taught, like, everybody was telling me it's like there's no racism in like Germany or go ahead.
No. So there is some truth to what you're saying, but here's how it works. Light-skinned Japanese as royalty, because they were royals. Anybody that was almost totally white in skin complexion in Japan is because they've been indoors. And who gets to be indoors? Not working in the fields like a
Yes,
common person? The
the
royalty.
wealthy.
But the white man and the black man and whatnot. Now, if you're saying like, well, whites get a pass and the blacks get, kind of crapped on, that's not entirely true. uh, Both get equally, treated as hairy
Well, that's
barbarians.
just me generalizing, of course, but
Yeah, now maybe they might not necessarily be quote concerned about the white man first, because let's face it, there is a certain
mhm.
bias or whatnot, especially if you come into Japan wearing your FUBU clothes or tough guy thug looking outfits and whatnot. They're gonna, of course, treat you as a what? They're gonna maybe avoid you because you look very threatening. But
Yeah.
but you know, but your average Joe white guy going over there, maybe not so much. But I can tell you this much: when the sign says "No foreigner" on a Japanese business establishment, that's not just oh, well, they only just mean the darker people and the black people. I'm a white guy. I'm cool. I'm accepted. It's like, no, white guy. No
No.
foreigner
They
means
they
you.
mean no foreigner.
They mean no foreigner. And it's not like here in the States where, well, I'm just gonna go to my local ACLU and raise hell. This is discrimination. It's like, this is Japan. Like it or leave it. Get the fuck out. And I know there's foreigners over there that are trying to change all that. And
It's
it's
a
like, why
monoculture.
don't
The
you improve your
monocultures
own
are
country
really
first before?
it's a
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like, when I saw signs that said foreigner
yeah,
not admitted,
they're really weird.
I wouldn't go in anyways, because chances are they already had a bad experience with Americans or whoever the foreigners were. So I'm not going to add to that grief. And two, I can understand perfectly the concept of, they don't want you, just move
Yeah.
on and go to the business that wants you, you know? And yeah, so yeah, I've seen a lot of guys where they would kind of go like, well, I'm a white guy, I could probably go over there and score like crazy because Japanese girls love white guys. And it's like, well, they like you for who you are. It's not necessarily because you're white. I mean, if you're a white and a jerk, they're still not going to like you. If you're black and a jerk, they might still not like you. If you're black
Yeah.
and chill or white and chill, you're good to go, you know. Hell, but if you're Steve Bennett, you're always well loved and everybody likes you, so it's all good. Man. Yeah, but it is a
Yeah,
common
there you
mistake.
go. There you go.
It is a common mistake. I hear too many people say, "Well,
Yeah.
American girls are mean, so
So
but the Japanese girls, they're so nice." And it's like, dude, you don't know Japanese women, or you don't know women. Period. The grass is always greener in the other guy's yard. Let me tell you how many times I've been envied in Japan for being married to a very chill American wife. Because they're like, oh my God, you're so lucky. Japanese women are crazy. Japanese women will rip you apart. And, how's it like being married to an American? It's like, well, it's just kind of like being married to a Japanese, as long as you're not a jerk to your wife or to your girlfriend or vice versa, life is all right. If you're a dick, then, you shouldn't be surprised by being treated like an idiot or a jerk or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. Do better in your own yard before you think
yeah,
you're going
no.
to roll into somebody else's yard and become king of the block. I hope that's answering some things. Maybe some
Mhm.
of your listeners out there are like, what are they saying? Oh no,
Oh
there
no,
goes
definitely.
my dreams of making it big in
That
Japan.
Yeah, oh no. You've definitely crushed some dreams. Like that's what I thought, and that's what I was led to believe just by everyday story just a person tells. But then I marry my wife and I'm just like, and she was just the nicest thing, and then that wedding ring gets slapped on and it's just like the onigiri mask is just like
Hey, my mother, man. I mean,
and to my knowledge that's about how it happens.
here was a. Do you remember the the anime series Ranma One Half? And you remember the Tendo sisters, Akane, Nabiki,
Yeah,
and Akane? So here was the funny thing about those three
yeah,
girls. They literally
yeah.
were.
I watched the
They were the representatives of one Japanese woman, basically the typical Japanese everyday real woman.
yeah.
Very responsible, very intelligent, very sweet, very kind, very motherly, very smart with money, and at the same time, tough as nails, man. Yeah, you got the Kasumi, thing during your initial meeting with the girl or with the woman that you're, interested in. Very sweet and polite and gentle, and I'll bring you the shoes, maybe make you a dinner, Then along comes with that the Nabiki, and then ultimately the Akane, the passionate, the pissed off. The everything goes from Anata to Omae real quick. Like you said, the demon horns come out because whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like this is the reality of it, man. This guy was telling me he wanted to go to Japan because American women were crazy mean, and he wanted to marry a Japanese because they're so nice and all that. And I said, dude, let me tell you something.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Like
You're
I
going
don't
for all
know
the
who
wrong
made
reasons,
that
man.
up. Like was it just some like I remember hearing about like a book some British or American dude wrote that was like praising the super submissive and like pacified Japanese woman, how they're like and how like a lot of a lot of white people like is just like, oh really, because these American women are out of their mind, let me go grab one of these super submissive obedient Japanese women I keep hearing about, and I'm sure they learn too.
Japanese woman will rip your dick off in a heartbeat. They will. In
Absolutely.
this story, the quiet one will fuck
And they
you
have
up.
some fantastic knives over there, so it will not be difficult.
Yep. But oh my god, dude. Yeah. Oh my god. I'm married to a beautiful Italian American, and she could be very, very strong, very, very tough, very, very sweet, very, very gentle, and it's like, hey, she's all American, and so I don't get it where people are saying, the womanhood, where it comes to guys, that the womanhood over here is all mean and terrible and rotten or something. It's got to be better over there. But I'm very sure that there's also like the American women that are all about like, oh Japanese man, and it's like, yeah, some of them can be cool, but some of them can be jerks too. I mean, if you really do love Japanese men, by all means, be
Yeah.
happy with them. But that's where I look at it too and go like, this is pretty queer when in the odd sense, if you're falling in love with the race and not the individual. Like I prefer Japanese women. Well, then that's a kink, dude.
Yeah.
That's a fetish. Because like I'm here in my case, I love women across the board. I just happen to really love my wife number one first, followed of course number two, but always still almost on equal footing, my mother.
Exactly.
But not in an Oedipal way. Then after that, it's all up in the air.
Yeah.
My lady friends and people that I've known for years. So I could find the exact same type of person in any German, Japanese, American, Italian girl. In my case, it's girls. If I was otherwise, it would be men or boys or whatever. in the whole spectrum of the rainbow these days. But but when folks are just so hung up with well, because they're so much nicer and more honorable and blah blah blah. Or then of course now everybody's all hot about Korean girls or something, and it's like, dude, if you thought the Japanese were docile or so, then I don't know where the hell you get the idea that Koreans are docile, because they certainly are very passionate people. And they will too rip your head off too if you don't toe the line.
Well, at least with like Japanese, they have the books, and then they have the Japanese animations, which honestly it wasn't a perfect reflection of real life. But Netflix now has all these K-dramas, and it's really easy to like, and they're really good TV shows. So that distinction can be made even more so now that it's like an actual living person. So and again, they're going to learn real quick that shit flies just as true as it does with any other Asian. Like that mask comes off real quick once it's appropriate.
Absolutely. Oh man, I think we covered across the board here, didn't we? This conversation,
right? Really, we really got into it.
Hey, do we have?
That's what these podcasts are all about.
We don't have any questions from anybody available there or on the internet or anything, do we? Or oh, that's right. This is not live.
Not really. No, I didn't really. No, this isn't live. No. I've seen plenty of different, like even right now with how the reception's going and how it's kind of lagging just a bit. I mean, God even knows, like live, just I don't even want to imagine. Like I'm not even sure if this video is gonna come out very well, but I mean we'll see. It'll go up anyway, and
we'll see how it goes.
We'll just see how it goes.
Yeah. Hey, well, here's a suggestion I'd like to make. So, like, if this particular broadcast turns out to be very well perceived and people really enjoy it and like it, then what we could do is for another time, like if you would like to have me back, just put it out there, say, hey, boys and girls, why don't you guys send any questions that they may want to know or anything that they might want us to discuss, and we'll be happy to tackle it in the next installment of Brought with Steve Chillin'. So I'll be glad to do this one with you.
With Steve. Yeah, no, definitely. Once I start getting a following, I think I'll definitely open up a P.O. box just for like, hey, all right, in all honesty, you don't even need that. I mean, you can just have someone like drop a message to the Facebook page.
Exactly. So, this way we can make it, any future installments with me or with any of the other guests that you will be bringing on, interactive. Am I the first one then?
Exactly. Yeah. No.
Wow. Well, then, thank you.
I had my friend Justin,
be a part of your inauguration.
Just an audio.
Mm-hmm. In this one, are we?
I had my friend Justin on as the first one.
Oh, got it. Justin was on, but he was
third. You're number 3.
So I'm the number 3. Am I the first videoed one, or am I also just audio?
No. Your video, but you'll be the second video. The first one was Ricky and his brother Anthony from the taco truck. I had them on Wednesday.
Yeah, the taco truck guys. Hey, taco truck guys, I want to try your tacos if I get a chance to get out there. Are they in Birmingham then, or are they in Montgomery? Where are they in Alabama?
No, they're in Ayrton.
They're in where?
They're in Ayrton. It is a town of maybe Ayrton. Like
Ayrton,
like it's maybe 1,200 people. Like
1,200, and it's outside of Montgomery. It's in Alabama still, right?
Yeah. So 231 going towards Dothan. Yeah, it's still in Alabama. Yeah.
Hey, well, if I get a chance to get invited to any of the cons,
but
tell those taco boys to be there.
Mm-hmm. I'll definitely let you know.
Have you had a chance to eat?
Oh no, I plan on dragging them in if we ever do another con.
Oh, that would be awesome, man.
They are personally responsible. They are the taco truck is personally responsible for 3 different drop-offs to the Goodwill. Like,
oh, really? Outstanding. Everybody we know in Alabama doing
fantastic.
Okay? Good. All the guys and girls we know in Alabama.
Everybody's doing great.
Good. And I remember you guys were just having those real bad storms blowing through, but so far no damage or anything. Good. Well, glad to hear that everybody's okay.
At least not for us, no.
Good. And good across the board. Well, yeah, man. Well, yeah. I'd be willing to do this again with you, man.
So as far as we'll definitely do it. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good place to end it, man. It was great having you on. It really was. Like, we'll definitely have to do this again sometime.
Well, Brock, I look forward to it, man. And everybody out there listening to this, please help Brock out. Send him questions, send him suggestions. Anything you guys want to know from me for the next time I get a chance to be on it again, we'll be more than happy to discuss things directly related to anything that you guys, girls, and everybody under the rainbow out there wants to know about. And yeah, man, thanks a lot for having me on. Happy Halloween. I look forward to doing it again with you, man.
Yes, Halloween. I almost forgot about that. Hey, just let everybody know where they can find you. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, anything like that.
Okay,
let them know where they can find you at.
So on Facebook, I'm everything cartoony with good old Steve Bennett. I know it's a really long title, but everything cartoony with good old Steve Bennett. And old is OL with a hyphen. I'm on Facebook in general, Steve Bennett. I mean, one way or another, you can find me there. Twitter, don't have one of those. And judging from everything I keep hearing about Twitter, it's probably a good thing I don't. Nobody's going to want to know about, hey, I thought this movie sucked. Hey, I thought this movie was good. However, Brock, I'll be more than happy to do this with you once we get it launched as well. But eventually, with a couple of good buddies of mine, Joe Herbert and Travis Rash, we're getting ready to launch a Twitch channel where my guys, those guys, my buddies.
Okay, yeah, I remember you telling us.
Yeah, they were talking about doing gaming stuff and whatnot, and they're the gamers, and me, I'm the animator. So probably on the Twitch, I'll be doing drawing panels and just kind of hanging out. So that's why I'll say, like, hey, Brock, come on over here, jump on this one with me. So yeah, that's where Steve Bennett, you guys can follow me wherever you see me. And if I'm at an anime con, don't hesitate to come up and say hey. And that's where I can be found. Oh, and I do want to put this one out there. So my wife and I, we've been working together on BennettCreativeServices.com, where she and I both as artists, we do a lot of paintings, drawings, and books and things. And so a lot of cool stuff creatively done by both Nikki Bennett and Steve Bennett can be available from BennettCreativeServices.com.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much, man.
Well, Brock, we'll go ahead and we'll sign off.
See you,
we'll sign off officially for the show, but maybe